Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll, please?
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Tom Grotti.
I'm back.
Alderman Ted Grotti. Alderman Rapella. Let's see him. Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Taylor. Alderman Sevenick. Alderman Langdon.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is the reports. We have the minutes and communications to receive. Do we have a motion? Alderman Sevenick. Oops, sorry.
Thank you. I was just kind of stalling a little bit because I was hoping Randy would be coming through the door here.
Okay.
Because he didn't call me. And okay. Alrighty. So, anyways, Mayor, thank you. Like at this time to receive minutes A through E and communications F through J.
So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Item F is public comment in any matter of concern to the city. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening?
Hello, Sandra Dable Taylor, 545 Broad Street. I just wanted to bring up a couple things. I encourage the council, if they have the opportunity, to attend both the Plan Commission meeting tomorrow and especially the RDA meeting. There are some important topics on the RDA agenda, and the Plan Commission will be again discussing the facade changes, proposed changes to new construction. I have been disappointed with several of the recommendations coming out of the Plan Commission, especially when it pertains to Menasha is a landlocked community. We have limited resources and land available to redevelop and develop. Therefore, it's my feeling that we should construct things of the highest value. A lot of the proposals that have been coming through have weakened, especially now this facade one, have weakened the building materials. It used to be 75% brick or natural stone. It keeps getting weakened. We've had things with the LED signage abutting residential properties, and there's just been, while they've been trying to update code, I think it's making the quality of our buildings weaker. So I encourage you to go to that and listen. One of the things, I made the mistake of watching the council meeting on TV last night. And one of the items on the agenda tonight is the Racine Street, Main Street intersection. Years ago, when Mark Radke was still Director of Public Works, we had a parking committee. A lot of that was discussed in that, and it went through. It was not political. It was a group that went together, analyzed the situation, and at that point, if changes were made, it was like a 90-day trial basis, and I would like to see that reinstated. Living on Broad Street, now that it's two-way, and the horrible intersection of Broad and Racine where people exiting are not allowed to take a left toward Neenah, go south, but yet on the opposite corner with the blind spot you can. I mean, we need to get this non-political and have an open discussion on parking regulations and traffic in general. Another thing on the agenda under communications, I believe, was a memo from the library regarding eliminating fees. Now, granted, it's a small amount, 5 cents for children, 10 cents for adults, for late fees, but to totally eliminate it, to me, they're trying to encourage people to read, but what about responsibility? We're not training people to be responsible. And what about the next person or next child who's waiting to check out that book or reference material, and they're just told, well, it's too bad, someone didn't return it and they're not being held accountable. I think it's the wrong direction to take. I know they use Kakana, I believe, as a reference. Nina, I pulled up their website, they charge 10 cents for books, and it's higher for other reference materials. So I don't think that's the direction to go. I think at some point, people have to be held accountable, because when they grow up, nothing's going to be for free. I also had concerns, now this is under the administration committee, the EM strategic development proposal for a hotel study. Shortly, the council allocated $20,000 for that feasibility study. I was at that meeting and rattled off numerous factors that I could tell you right there save you $20,000, because we can support a hotel, especially if it was a high-end hotel with a banquet facility, concierge services, a fitness center. In fact, many people could lease out the top 2 floors or something as condos. And then they would have a definite income stream. To now have another developer come along and want us to pay for another analysis is wasteful spending. Then Jefferson Park. I attended every one of the meetings regarding the vision for Jefferson Park. At that time, I actually requested both to Brian Tongate and the mayor to be appointed to the board. There wasn't a vacancy available. That didn't happen. But it was important to me that this project was done correctly. And what we're doing is piecemeal. And we're putting the cart before the horse. We don't really know what we're going to do with the pool. We don't really know how the rest of the layout's going to be, what other amenities are going to be coming forward. And at that time, a couple of years ago, money was taken out of the plan that was basically, there were 3 options, and those options were already decided upon before the public really had any input. They actually wanted to remove Cargus Drive, and then there was money set aside for a small little bridge. Well, that luckily was removed, but that money, instead of being seed money for future development of a master plan, was pretty much spent. And now this money could be set aside that we have a real project. The only way you're going to get donations and fundraisers if there's something exciting for people to get involved in. They're not going to throw money at a parking lot. They're not going to want their name attached to a parking stall. You really need to look this over. Granted, it's already been budgeted. Granted, it's already been bid. But I think the money be much better set aside and used for future what we really are going to do there. Because there's a lot of things that could be done, especially the pavilions. And speaking of the pavilions, watching the meeting last night, I overheard, I believe it was Alderman Langdon mention, that there's a proposal to make a beer garden in the pavilion. Now, that was never part of any of the discussion. Now, I don't know where that came from, but I know this administration in the past has had a tendency to want to use public property and public parks for the benefit of private companies, whether it's a food truck or we had the incident with the kayak company, and then when we actually came forward and asked them to pay an $800 lease for the property, they wanted no part of it. Our parks belong to the citizens of Menasha, and we should not be encouraging private developers or private business to benefit from those parks without the park department and the city benefiting in turn. So I'm adamantly opposed to that. In the accounts payable, there is a check to the YMCA for $7,000. I thought we had eliminated that agreement with them. So I'm curious as to where that came from, especially when I read in the paper that the YMCA was granted $500,000 for senior programming. I still have a problem with the city of Menasha providing a senior center when no other community in the Fox Valley does, at taxpayer expense. And finally, I guess I just want to emphasize that I hope that you have time to attend both the RDA and the Plan Commission tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor.
Hi, I'm Kathy Bauer, 709 Lincoln Street, and I'm here to talk about the Memorandum of Understanding. My first item is that I also believe that a study had been completed already, and I thought the cost was about $20,000, and that area is already under the purview of either RDA or community development. And City of Menasha people thought that this was going to be housing, not necessarily a hotel. And then I looked through the community development notes in this packet, and there's nothing listed that the department had been notified of this study, although the memorandum states that staff has been in conversations, but there's no mention as to what staff and which hotels have been contacted. I believe that this should be public knowledge. Also, the city of Menasha is under the, I also question whether Menasha can maintain a hotel, as the city of Neenah and Appleton already have a hard time keeping their hotels running profitably. So with that, that means that there's ample available space in the Fox Valley, and that causes concern to me for Menasha, supporting a hotel. Then I did some fact-checking on EM Strategic Development Group, and the EM's founder is Mark Meyer. And I checked his bio, and I found the following. He is a principal of E&M Real Estate Holdings, LLC, which is listed at an apartment in Evanston, Illinois. It employs 2 people and has estimated revenue of about $90,912. I found this on Manta. He is also the president of ICI Staffing, which is a staffing group, which currently has 4 admin jobs. And the last time any feedback on placements was dated August of 2016. EM Strategic Development has a 1-page website listing what appears to be 2 projects which are connected to the Tenant Advisory Group, and William Himmelstein, which is part of EM Strategic, runs the Tenant Advisory Group. William Himmelstein is listed as counsel to EM Strategic. He is the founder and CEO of Tenant and Advisory Group. He has a BSBA in Marketing and Managing and a minor in Psychology. He holds a CCIM, Certified Investment Manager, and is a managing broker. His company employs about 10 people, and 2 of the EMI strategic development projects are also listed on Tenant Advisory. So they're working together. The BSBA was also earned at Washington University in St. Louis, along with David Seidman, who is also listed as a partner with EM Strategic. He currently works at Fischel and Kahn Ltd. David is listed as lead counsel in the EM Strategic. He received his JD at Washington University in St. Louis, along with William Himmelstein. His bio links that he concentrates his practice to corporate law, litigation, banking, and regulatory legislative issues. On the Fisher-Kahn site, he also lists that he sits on 2 advisory boards of 2 startups, but he does not list which ones they are. So with that, because we already have a study, and if EM Strategic truly wants to try and partner with the city of Menasha and be a developer, why are we then being held for half the cost? If the development company is that interested, this should be completed by the company to determine if Menasha can support a hotel and be profitable for this chain of LLCs. Plus, the only way we appear to gain ownership of the study is if the development agreement is not met in 180 days. If we're paying part of the cost, we should get that study. And why are we disallowed any general obligation, debt or bond for financing? Personally, because I do tax accounting, I'm wondering if this has anything to do with the LLC setup. It's a shell game. So I have some concerns, and I hate to even bring this up, but this is being thrown in our faces pretty quickly. We've been here before. We need to vet these people thoroughly before we even think about pushing out money, developing, because, we'll get a hotel that sits and that we'll have to maintain, and the LLC shell games will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll move on to the consent agenda. There's 3 items this evening: the common council minutes, the proposed rental fee structure for the senior center, and the recommendation to award the Jefferson Park parking lot basketball court, including the alternate bids 1A and 1B. Does anyone wish to have any items separated this evening? Alderman Taylor?
Number 3.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion for the remaining items? Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like for us to approve the common council minutes of 2/17 of 2020 and the proposed rental fees for the senior center for 2020.
There's a motion and a second. If we could have a roll call vote, please. Oops, apparently yours doesn't work, Ann. Okay.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Do we have a motion for item number 3? Well, Alderman Langdon?
I don't know why I was thinking Park.
Thank you, Mayor. I will make the motion to approve the recommendation to award contract number 2020-02 for the Jefferson parking lot basketball court, and regarding to include alternate bids 1A and 1B to be awarded to Vinton Construction Company in the amount of $492,867.95.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grady. It was nice when we didn't have to differentiate between Alderman Gradys. Discussion. Alderman Rappella.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the basketball hoops and the $492,000, I know I called up Brian today as far as getting some other information as far as the playground items that were going to go there, and I realize this is more for the basketball hoops in the parking lot. And but I kind of agree with Mrs. Taylor as far as mentioning some of this stuff about the cart before the horse, and I know I've had some discussions with Adam and about that we need to really grade the parking lot first. Otherwise, if we wouldn't, the playground would be flooded and vice versa. It's a little bit of a situation over there as far as the low ground. I guess I'm just not that comfortable with the $492,000, and I'm looking at some of the other things, $30,000 or $27,000 for a dumpster storage area. That's pretty expensive. I don't know, if it has to be that much money, but that's a question I have. So I guess I'm not in complete support of the playground or the parking lot regrading and the basketball lot, basketball court. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you. Sorry for being late. I was stuck in traffic. There's a whole lot of traffic coming from Neenah. All right, thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I see what Director Tungate sent us a letter regarding this item that we're on right now. And just like to make a couple comments about that. It said the current pool lot has 77 stalls, and Adam, I'm probably going to need my map, my parking map pulled up on the board here. I'm going to make a reference to it. So we have, Director Tungate said we have 77 stalls in the pool parking lot. The project will reduce that number to 57. The current pavilion lot has 32 stalls. The project will increase that number to 54 stalls. And it says, in comparison, the lot serving Fritch Park pavilion area in the village of Fox Crossing has 77 stalls. And the lot serving the Washington Park Shelter and Playground in Neenah has 74 stalls.
We don't, do we have that? We all have it in the packet. If you want to pull it up, you can.
Well, the public here, we can pull it up, that's where we got the visuals, so.
So your point is, Alderman Taylor?
Okay, so we're looking at the swimming pool here has 78 stalls. And then the other parking lot behind the school has 32 stalls. And then what we'll be doing is, what proposed is to eliminate some of these stalls in the pool lot here, and then to add these stalls behind the large pavilion, which is right here, and we would bump out this lot here with the 32 stalls out behind the pavilion. So the $492,000 here to make a couple adjustments, and then over by the school, we would be regrading and removing the west diamond and adding some playground equipment somewhere in the tune of around $600,000. Okay, so far we had a commitment from the Menasha school system for $100,000, and now that commitment is, as I asked in my letter, that we would have some sort of a written commitment from the school district. And I appreciate that the school district did send us a letter. To make things easier, we will contribute $10,000 to the project. 2 years ago, when this project came forward, they were going to contribute $100,000. Now it's $10,000. And our minutes from the Board of Public Works, from Brian Tugate, and Engineering Department, Corey Gordon. We were gonna construct a new parking lot with a drop-off lane for Jefferson Elementary School. And with that is, a lot of people think that's for the buses to drop off the kids. And it's not. The buses are out front of the school. So construct a new parking lot with a drop-off lane for Jefferson Elementary Schools. Already there's an area where parents come in, they turn, kids drop off, they go through the gate, and they go into the school. And we already have that. But yet we're gonna construct a new lot for the school for $10,000. You're lucky you can do a driveway for your house for $10,000. So we are closing TIF 6, and the school will be receiving some increment out of TIF 6. I was told it's over 200,000, and I think we should be revisiting this commitment that the school district first made 2 years ago. And when this project came out 2 years ago, it was going to be a regional draw. We were going to draw people in from all over with this project. And since then, we only heard that regional issue 2 years ago. And this May, the rollout of the Jefferson Park master plan is already 3 years old. When I read this before, Fritch Park had 77 stalls, Washington Park Shelter had 74 stalls. We already have 77 stalls. We have 109 stalls right there in that area right now by our pavilion, let alone throughout the park. On the map shows that we have 393 stalls throughout Jefferson Park. Fritch Park, Washington Street Park, they don't have the road going through their parks. They have a parking lot and that's it. We have a very comprehensive park. As we were told back in the first meeting of February, there was a study done by Northeast Wisconsin, Northeast Central Planning, whatever, that we have one of the best park systems in the Fox cities, and that's hats off to Director Tungate and his staff for keeping our parks and putting our parks at that level.
Okay, we're getting way far off the topic now. We're approving or rejecting a bid this evening.
Okay, and I was
We're not
talking-
talking about the Jefferson Park plan at this point.
Right, and what I'm doing is just commenting on the parking issues that are in this memo from Director Tungate to yourself, Mayor, and to the council. Okay, so as you can see, we have the parking stalls, and something else, through my letter and through other discovery, is that we're gonna have the reason for this is we're gonna have a beer garden in the pavilion, so we need a bigger parking lot to accommodate that. And that has never come before this body, talking about the beer garden, and further discovery that the Rotary Club might be running this beer garden. So in order, they need a bigger parking lot to put food trucks on it. And, you know, the quietness of these projects, or the non-transparency of these projects, you know, it doesn't help when we have to make decisions on these for $500,000 here. And do we really need to spend $500,000 for parking lots, basketball court, and regrading? We heard from the neighbors last week that were here for the Public Works about that they don't want the basketball courts in their front yards, literally in their front yards. I had 4 of those homeowners call me and say they couldn't make the meeting tonight for other commitments, and one party works the afternoon shift, and her letter was read last week at the Board of Public Works. So we have a neighborhood that doesn't want this in their front yard, and I don't think anybody really wants a basketball court in their front yard, not that close. We have 29 acres in
Again,
that
we're,
park to put the basketball court, not to put it in people's front yards. So I think we have an obligation to listen to people in the neighborhood. And they all told me that they were on the Jefferson Park study committees too. And they didn't think that this was going to end up in their front yard. So there's other places in the park that are well-suited for the basketball courts, that we don't have to put extensive regrading and a drainage system into the park that costs tens of thousands of dollars. It's all broken down in our bid tabulation, and it's all itemized, and it's amazing the type of dollars we would have to put into that area there, when we have other areas in the park that wouldn't even need any type of minimal grading, and we wouldn't need to put storm sewers and retention basin and other things in to accommodate that, adjusting manholes. There's quite a list here for tens and tens of thousands of dollars for that portion of it. If we choose just to move it to another section of park, away from the homes, away from the lower areas of the park, and we would save hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing that. I will yield to anyone else that wants to speak to this issue.
Alderman Grady.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is a tough subject. It's something, I do serve on the Park and Rec Board. I've been on the board for now almost 3, maybe 4 years. And we were told, or we thought as a board, let's look at Jefferson Park, the jewel of our city. What do we have to do? There's been no money spent down there in like years. Give Thad credit for building a seawall and doing something with some of the money and getting some of that because of the erosion and other things. Jefferson Park is a park for people to come to. We agreed in the budgeting process to okay this $492,000 to be spent for this project. We also talked about, okay, well, nothing's been done, it's been 3 years old, well, because everybody keeps saying no to everything. I mean, we agreed to the money. I think it's a good project that has to be done for Menasha to get things going down there, whether we invest in pavilions, music amphitheaters, beer gardens, whatever. We gotta develop that jewel that we call Jefferson Park. I think we've been very transparent about this. I don't know how many workshops Brian's had. People have come in. We looked at the plans. We looked at everything. They voted on what they wanted. They want this and that. This is the start. This is the start. The parking lot is the start. And I do give Brian Odessia, Menasha High School, thank you very much for the $10,000. It's better than nothing. I know at one time they wanted to do more, but, you know, we'll take whatever we can get. But the vision plan is to grow Jefferson Park. And I think Brian and his group, Tungate, has done a very good job of laying out the process. It's not gonna all happen in 1 year, and this is the first step, and it has been agreed upon. So I will support this, and I hope the rest of you do too. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. I've never believed that the ball diamond should be removed either. But I've been a part of this process along with everybody here. And we listen to the input of citizens. It's not fair to say that people didn't get an opportunity to voice their opinions because, as Alderman Grotti stated, there were a number of workshops. For 2 years, there was citizen involvement. I also believe that, and I didn't partake because I'm an alderman, I just didn't think it was right. But I believe you had an online survey also to the entire community, and I believe you had a pretty large response to that. So there has been citizen involvement in this. As far as what the school district, I had given James that number of the 200,000, and I apologize. He is right. If we don't close out TIF 6 today, that 250,000 goes to the school district. If we close out TIF 6 today, we retain that $250,000, and their amount would be 35,000. So maybe they could contribute up to 35,000. And I agree. I think the school district should have kicked in a little bit more. They really benefit the most from this, other than our citizens. I also think it's not fair to keep saying that the basketball courts are in front of the neighborhood's houses. This plan doesn't have that, does it? Isn't it more in the middle? Yeah,
Yeah, that's correct. It's more in the right field area of the existing
Okay.
softball diamond.
okay, James says it's only 100 feet. Would that be correct?
That's what's in the memo about, if you go across Ice Street there and there's that parking lot there, it's roughly 100 feet, a little over
Seems like
100,
it.
little over 100 feet.
When I looked at the design, it looked like it was much further than just 100 feet. So let's see. And then as far as some of the other things that might be going on in the park, I don't think those are really germane at this point. They're talking points of ideas, just like the entire park plan. But the area about the city spending $610,000 is also not a fair comment, because in the city's budget and in this plan, it is our plan in the city to spend $100,000, and then $500,000 would be for fundraising. So I just wanted to make that clear so that people understand that we're not just going out and spending $610,000 of taxpayer money. That's not a fair statement. The amount is $100,000, and even that's a lot, but playground equipment is more expensive, I think, than people realize. I'm guessing that little park that was put in over at Hart Park is probably almost close to that amount. So anyways, I've struggled with this a lot, but we've had 2 years. And I have put my input in on this, especially about saving that large tree out there. I didn't want us to head over that way, so the plan got moved a bit. And then there was a ginkgo tree that most people don't, maybe I'm a tree hugger, but there's a ginkgo tree there that's probably close to 70 years old. And one stall was taken out to save that ginkgo tree. So, all in all, I think if we want to have this become our gem of the community, we need to start focusing on doing something out there, because it is getting tired. Jefferson Park can be a better park than what it is. It is getting tired, and I think that we have an opportunity to make this the showcase of the valley, and therefore, with all that I just said, I've come to the conclusion that I will support this.
Seeing no further discussion, we could have Mark would like to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I guess I wasn't going to, but I just wanted to get a couple clarifications. Alderman Rapella mentioned that, Adam, this will be for you, that there won't be any drainage in the parking lot when it's put in, and he's worried about the drainage. Is there gonna be standing water in that?
No, there'll be drainage, yeah. There'll be a storm system included in this. He said it would be better drainage.
Would it be better?
It'll be improved, yes. And then this will improve the standing water
Yeah.
that we see out in the West Diamond area.
So, okay, then I just got a couple of more questions. I know Alderman, I wasn't gonna say this, but, Alderman, Taylor mentioned 100 feet, but in the memo I'm reading here, Brian, it says the two basketball courts, half courts will be located over 100 feet from the closest Ice Street home. So is it 100 or over 100?
It's just over 100. It's 103 feet, 4 feet, something like that.
Okay. So, I just guess I wanted to mention too then that years back, the Rotary and Kiwanis Club and a couple other clubs would put on baseball tournaments, softball tournaments in Jefferson. Reason being was because they could sell beer. And, so I was hoping one of those people would have been here tonight, because back in the day, I guess I wanted to ask them that I'm a left-handed hitter and a big power hitter, so the softballs hitting the top of their rooftops didn't matter, but now two half-court basketball courts do. So I just find, I had to mention that. And was I done? So, and Alderman Grady mentioned, and we know as aldermen how long they've been working on this project. And I think we need to start with the parking lot because that's the entrance into the park. As far as I'm concerned as an alderman, I don't care how many parking stalls are lost or gained by that parking lot, because it's not gonna all be used except for 1 year, 1 day of the year, and that's July 4th. So for me, I don't care about parking stalls, how many there are or not. What it is gonna look like, and with that softball, I had a conversation with Brian, and Alderman Taylor was correct that when he said there was activity on the West Diamond. Well, according to Director Tungate, that it's gonna be an easy move to move them to the South Diamond and then still keep the East Diamond for the men's league play. And so that's what I just wanted to mention, that we need to start this, and we did budget for this. And I guess if any alderman had a concern, they should have brought it up during budget session, because that's when you take money out. Tonight isn't the night to do it. And so here we are once again, so thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Anytime you can take money out, put money in. Budget time, very complex. Money is hidden in so many accounts in these budgets that we don't even know where it is at times. So, you would think by now, when they're coming here to sell you aldermen this project, there'd be a beautiful design out here, okay? There'd be a beautiful, plan. There's nothing. It's up in the air. You think if we're selling this to the public and asking other people to put their money into it, the people that were here last week with the basketball court being within 103 feet of their front yards, were part of that process. They were in the study group with the Jefferson Park parking lot. As you just heard from Ms. Taylor before, they didn't listen. There's other things. She said it was cut and dry before she even got there. We have ample parking. We have more parking than any other park. We have almost 400 stalls. And why do we need to spend taxpayers' money for almost $500,000 for parking and leveling a ball field? Last year, we bid $225 for this project. I believe it came in at $430,000. Last year, there was the final, just like tonight, and the bids came in, we said, no, that's too much. Now it comes in at $60-some thousand more than last year. It comes in, I mean, as what it said, we budgeted $225,000 for this. Now it's double. It's just absolutely double. And we keep saying we don't have enough parking, we gotta put on another parking lot. My God, there's almost 400 stalls here. People go to the park to recreate. They're gonna walk, we've lost all of our major festivals, Seafood Fest left now. And we don't have the big festivals like we used to. Jazz Fest, they use the east end of the park. But the parking lots that serve for the swimming pool, as I showed you last week in my photos, 2/3 of it on the best days of the year, 7 cars on 3rd Street, 2 cars in the school parking lot. And I would put $500,000 for something we can really show, rather than moving a parking lot around. And then I hear that there's a hidden agenda with this beer garden thing that hasn't been put out in front of us. Because that's why the parking lot has got to go in there for that, okay? And we don't even hear that. We don't have a design. But, the park is tired, you know? We just had our plan that was before us 2 meetings ago, and our park system is one of the best in the Fox Cities. We have over the amount of parks that
Okay,
every
we're
community
way
have.
off topic again. We're on the topic of should we approve
Okay. And I'm
this
talking
bid or
about,
not?
Mayor, the parking issue here and the park. Many other people just got done talking
Yep,
about.
I let you speak
The mayor.
quite a bit.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. So, in that 2 years, when this plan first came about, they said there was a donor for maybe $500,000.
Excuse me, but we're way off topic on whether to approve this bid or not.
Mayor, I didn't hear unanimous consent to hear from the city attorney, Mayor.
I
You're the
will-
chairman,
I
you're
will
running the
say this-
meeting.
Would you like me to say the same thing? We're way off topic.
I'm talking about
Donors have nothing to do with whether we should approve this bid or not.
They certainly do, because you're asking us to put $500,000 forward. And then what's coming on top of this, Mayor? What's coming on top of this?
This is.
We're
the-
building the infrastructure for the grand plan.
Sure.
And in 2 years, you think this body could get a notification that this donor is gonna give us, or these donors are gonna give us this money?
Well, I guess my question is, how am I supposed to go out and talk to donors, or Director Tungate talk to donors when we put this project off numerous times? I can't just go to a donor
The
and
money-
say, hey, we might do this. Would you
Since
give me money?
November, the money's sitting in the coffers, and we should go back to the school system. Why did they offer us $100,000 at the start?
Okay, again, we're way off topic.
You're absolutely right, we are, because we're building the foundation for this project, and we're building the school's parking lot, okay? And we're adding lanes to the school parking lot for this amount of money.
And that was in the design that we all
It's in the
saw that
design,
the
and
park
that's
board
why I'm talking,
approved.
and the school is
and
gonna
the-
give us $100,000 for that parking lot.
If you don't think this is an appropriate project, then you should vote no on it.
Mayor, the people of the fifth district put me in this seat,
Second district.
thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know that we had changed.
I got that 500,000 stuck in my brain, so I got that 5, okay. People of the second district put me in this seat, and it's a lot of money. And I've shown you that we have all the parking that we need, and for us to put this money just in the parking and to grade a field is what I hear on the campaign trail right now is spend, spend, spend. And that seems to be what we're doing here. We don't have a plan. None of you have a plan in front of you to show you what this looks like. 103 feet from somebody's house to have a basketball court, when we could put it into the park in another location. I'm starting to talk with my fingers. I'm starting to be like Bernie Sanders, I think, here. So I'll hold my fingers back. So how can I spend that money when the original plan was $225,000? Now it's doubled. And we hear from people, not my front yard, and we haven't heard from the donor. And closing TIF 6, we would have something from the school system. I'm the one that stepped out and said, don't cut down that Civil War tree, don't cut down that ginkgo tree, and I'm glad that some things were readjusted for that, okay? But there's not a parking crisis in Menasha, and there's not a parking crisis in Jefferson Park. And how can we spend that money for something that we don't need? And as Tom Lanuski told me, former alderman, council president, told me last summer, what is wrong with Jefferson Park? God rest his soul.
Alderman Grady. Oops, sorry.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. Being in my district, Jefferson Park, I attend a lot of the Jefferson Park neighborhood picnics and events. And the majority, well, actually, everyone that pretty much comes to the potluck is very supportive of this whole concept with the park. Now, you talk about trying to reinstate a new plan or a new diagram, or whatever you want to call it, well, that's going to cost more money. We're pushing it off again, it's going to cost more money. And you're talking about trying to save money. Every time you push it out and push it out, it's going to cost more. And I think this is a good start. We need problems. We have a lot of drainage problems here. The basketball courts, my predecessor, that was one of the things he wanted to see here. And I'm going to stand behind that. I think this is a good start, and we need to get going. Thank you.
Alderman Rapella.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, that when we close the TIF, is that money that we're getting from the TIF, the $200,000, is that, can it be used anywhere in our budget, or is it kind of earmarked for the park and
I think
the
we're
parking lot?
way off budget
Oh,
on this. I mean,
okay,
off topic.
I'm sorry.
But,
I just wanted to know about that
it
money.
would go into the general fund if that was the case, but there are several proposals there, so
Okay.
I wouldn't count on that money necessarily to
Okay.
be spent on something like this.
Okay.
That would be a council decision where that money would go or what would
Okay,
happen with
oh,
that.
so that money could go to different, okay, thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment. I'd like to, motion to postpone till April 7th meeting. And by that time, we can ask the school district that they need to contribute more to their parking lot. That's going to benefit them. And by that time, 30 days should be long enough for you to go out and talk to the donor and see if they are committed, since that's been 2 years ago. And if you want to reach us confidentially with the amount the donors want to put out. And I think 30 days is adequate for that, for this body to make a decision on that. And one other comment, I'll just leave it at that.
So for starters, it would be April 6th, if that's okay with you, is the
I'm
meeting
sorry,
date.
April 6th.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Monday,
And-
April 6th. The election's April 7th.
And I am unable to talk to donors until we have a base for that facility. I'm not going to go ask donors, what if this happens and that happens and something else happens at the council level? Will you do this or that or something else? So
Mayor, the money's here.
I am not
We
willing
approved
to
it on
do
our
that.
budget. What more do you want?
There was an amendment. You don't-
Yes.
What more do you want? It's approved in the budget, and then we can move forward. If the donor's here with the money, look at the stock market last week. There's a lot of nervous people. They may not be interested in that.
So is there a second to his motion?
I'll make a second to it.
So motion and a second?
All I want to do is postpone, and let's find out where the money is, for the taxpayers, where the money is, because I was told by an alderman that, well, if we don't get it, we'll put 100,000 in next year, and then we'll put 100,000 in the next year and next year. It all goes hand in hand with this project. We got donor money, the money's approved already by this body, and once we see the money, we can move forward with this. And whether the comment that there is no plan, wasn't showed to the people, the plan isn't here, so the neighborhood heard about this, heard about that, but the
The
same people were
motion
here
is
at
to
the,
postpone, that's the only debate
same-
that's allowed.
the same people were here last week that said they don't want it in their front yard. Alderman Grotti, you weren't here, they were in your district. They were here and they said that.
So I do have one question for Director Alex before we move forward. Are these bids still valid as of April 6th if this is postponed until then?
After 30 days of opening the bids, then we do run into some potential issues there, that they could pull their bid. It's kind of funny that our front-end language does not specify exactly how long we have to award the contract. However, based upon the fact that we have these timelines that they were given the contractor so for it to be done by, it's our opinion that it could cause some problems potentially, but we'd have to contact or discuss that with the contractor.
So it's unknown at this point?
Unknown.
Okay. Do you have a question on your amendment?
Yeah, the contract season starts April 1st, we all know that. So we're 6 days into it.
So we have a motion on the floor to postpone till the April 6th meeting. And there's a second. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion fails on roll call, 2-6.
So seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote on the original motion.
Motion carried on roll call, 7-1.
Okay, item I is action items. The first item is the accounts payable and payroll for a term of February 20th through 27th. Is there a motion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the accounts payable and payroll for the term of February 20th through February 27th, 2020, in the amount of $1,037,076.11.
There's a motion and a second. Director McKinney, is she hiding back there? If you, could you comment on the check to the YMCA?
During the budget process, the workshop, we had indicated that we would be taking over the operations in February, and that we had wanted to contract with the YMCA during the month of January to assist us in shadowing and learning their systems, as well as making a smooth transition for all of the seniors so that things wouldn't be disrupted without having a good, solid operation in place. And they have completed that contract. They have completed the measures that we had outlined, which was to actually provide that mentoring and shadowing, as well as the metrics to look at how many people came to the facility during January, and how many people were from, how many visits, and then also which communities they were from, which is something that the Common Council had requested. So they have completed that obligation.
So they were basically operating the senior
Yes, they
center
were.
still for the month of January.
That is correct.
Were there any other questions regarding the accounts payable? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item 2 is the beverage operators license applications. Do we have a motion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for the approval of the beverage operators license applications for the 2019 through 2021 licensing period as listed under approved in the city clerk's memo dated February 27th, 2020.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second by Alderman Langdon. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
We also have 2 individuals who have been recommended for denial. I don't know if either of them are here this evening. Okay, one of them, are you Jennifer or Ashley? Okay. Attorney Captain, did you want to
Sure.
start?
Is Jennifer here? I want to see if Jennifer's here.
Are you Jennifer or, oh, okay.
And you are Ashley Sue Thomas? Okay, you want to just press the
Oops.
button there? That's, yep, there we go.
And I
Oh,
turned it off on
there
her.
it is. Thank
Because I
you.
had turned the one on over there for you guys by mistake.
And you are Ashley Sue Thomas, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you receive the letter dated February 27th, 2020 from Lieutenant Nick Thorne?
At this time, I have not.
Okay, you had received a phone call, is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to show you the letter, if that's okay. And the reason I'm asking you is because there are a whole list of, looks like convictions that you had received beginning in November of 2015, with the latest one dated January 7th of 2020.
For traffic violations, yes, ma'am.
And so are all of those correct?
I'm going to assume so. I'm sorry, no offense, but I don't keep track very much on the actual dates and things. Yes, I have driven on a suspension. Yes, I have gotten tickets for speeding, so on and so forth. So I am assuming that the legal records on this piece of paper is correct when it comes to actual details.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because there is a City of Menasha policy guideline for alcohol licenses, and one of the matters that are contained in there concern a habitual law offender. And the letter that Lieutenant Nick Thorne wrote looked at all of these offenses within a short period of time, and then indicated that your convictions then would mean that you are a habitual law offender. And I guess if you have anything that you want to,
I would like some stuff to add, yes. So I did go on to your website, and it does state for the City of Menasha, and it does turn around and talk about the example of being a habitual offender, but it also says that in the wording that you base it upon is that it specifically obtains to what I'm asking for. I have never been convicted of any criminal misdemeanor charges due to any kind of alcohol violation or drug violation. I only need this licensing so that my store, Dollar General, can sell alcohol. We are under all strict laws as state, federal, and our own store has policies as well. In order for me to keep my job, I have to have this license. I am trying to get promoted, and even as an assistant manager or just a key holder that can open, close, and take deposit, they have to have the license as well for any alcohol to be sold. Unfortunately, if we're not able to sell alcohol, Dollar General no longer needs us. So either I will be demoted to a part-time cashier or I will be fired because I cannot do what my job calls me to be able to do. I do understand, yes, when it comes to the traffic violations, I get that, especially with the driving under suspension. There isn't any good excuse for me to say, why I break the law. Unfortunately, after my car accident about 4 years ago, I was put into the category for the Wisconsin safety responsibility law. In most cases, that automatically disqualifies you from getting an occupational driver's license. I do have a child with autism, and unfortunately, I am the parent that is able to take my child back and forth to school because Menasha does not offer the aids that he requires, so he goes to Appleton Janet Berry Elementary. So I have to take him back and forth along with my other son to school. And if you do pull up majority of those driving on suspensions, if the officer did add any notes, it will state that I was getting pulled over either taking them to school or coming home from school. Like I said, I do understand that's still breaking the law, but unfortunately, I'm in a lose-lose situation because there are multiple things that the city doesn't offer in being able to help parents that are stuck in a hard situation. And I couldn't get an occupational driver's license either because I got in an accident with no insurance, which put me in the same category as if I committed a DUI. So I was stuck in a really hard situation. So I do currently hold my driver's license. I am required to continue to hold my SR-22, which is why my driver's license does get suspended, because if I can't afford to pay the insurance, there goes my SR-22, and within 24 hours, the DMV will pull my driver's license. So I do currently hold that. I do currently hold my SR-22, and I have a valid driver's license at this time. I haven't recently gotten any tickets for the driving on suspension since January 7th. And you will see that since January 7th, I have had my driver's license, and I did get that fixed as well.
And can I ask you about, I noticed there's a couple of speeding citations, failure to obey traffic sign and signal.
The traffic sign and signal, that is the
But I
year
didn't
that
ask the question yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I
Okay.
apologize. Sorry.
So I noticed those three, and I'm wondering if any of those, was your license suspended for failure to pay for any of those citations?
Just the driving on suspensions are from not driving no, my driver's, sorry, I didn't quite understand until now. My driver's license has not been pulled for any other reason other than failing to be able to pay my insurance in holding my SR-22.
Okay, so then those citations that you received, you did pay the forfeitures for those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The only citation that's on here that I may still need to pay on is the last one from January 7th. But all my fines and everything are up to date. I try to pay those as soon as possible because I don't like owing money, so.
And you probably have, 60 days or something to pay on that operating while suspended, the most recent one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
So at this point, we could accept a motion to approve or deny the license. We could ask questions if you'd like to as well. Alderman Sevenick?
I'm a loyal Dollar General
Well, we appreciate your service, sir.
customer.
Thank you.
Actually, I was there yesterday. Anyways, do you currently have a valid license?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you currently fully insured?
Yes, sir. Wait, okay, hold on. What do you mean by fully insured?
Well, I don't I mean, insured for liability?
Yes, yes, sir. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I understood properly.
Collision is I think, is collision an option?
I had, for insurance, I hold the, least expensive Wisconsin legal insurance is what I hold.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll just be honest, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know, driving a vehicle is a privilege.
I understand, sir.
And I keep thinking of my nephew who was hit by somebody who had, number one, no insurance, and number two, didn't have a valid driver's license, and number three, didn't even live in this country. And that bothers me. I think people think that, oh, well, I have to drive though, but you can't drive.
Like I said, I understand that it's not a good excuse for why I was driving. It's just sometimes I don't have a choice in the matter to make sure my
That
child is taken care
You
of.
have, but that's the wrong answer. That, you're willing to break the law so that you can take your child to school? I don't buy that. There are other options. So, I'm not happy about that. I mean, I was ready to make a motion to allow you to have this license. But by saying what you said, you're still not being serious about the fact that having that license is a privilege. And just because you can drive doesn't mean you have the right to drive.
No, I
You have to
completely
have
understand that,
that
sir.
license to drive, and I think there are too many people out there that think they can do whatever they want, that they don't have to pay for their insurance, and that they don't have to have a license, and that becomes a serious problem for a lot of people.
I understand where you're coming from, but I get from what comes out of my mouth, I can see where you are coming from, but that's not what I believe. That's why I made sure that each and every one of you understood that I'm not using it as a good excuse. I'm admitting my wrong, and I will own up to my wrong, and I have paid for my wrongs, and I am doing what is necessary to make sure that I'm in the right. I'm just explaining to you the reasons why I've done it, because I'm pretty sure you would like to understand why do you continue to drive on a suspended. I gave you the reasons. I'm not looking for an excuse. It's more of a reason so you understand why I was doing what I was doing. It's still wrong at the end of the day, sir.
All right, thank you. We've had other individuals up here, and I just want to say that I think you've done a very good job of explaining your situation.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Grotti.
Thank you, Mayor. So Ashley, you do have insurance, car insurance.
Yes, sir.
You do have a valid driver's license.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Or would someone like to make a motion? Alderman Sevenick.
I am somewhat reluctant to make this motion, but the short time I've listened to Ashley here and her situation, I feel I can trust her. So I'll move at this time. The chief obviously has something more. Is there something more that you want to share, or?
Apparently the chief wanted to share something with the city attorney.
That's up to the mayor. He runs the meeting.
Go ahead.
I think, did you state before that you have never received a citation regarding liquor or alcohol?
As far as my knowledge, I do understand that when the chief or another representative from the police department called me the other day, I was being accused of being charged with an offense in 2018, which I explained to him that that was not me and I did not do that.
And I'm looking at 2015.
Did that happen in Appleton?
Yes.
Okay, that was shortly after I moved from the state of Tennessee, which has different laws. I did work at a Dollar General market, which when you have a market, which is more of a grocery store than a convenience store, there are different laws. And the company themselves failed to educate that I needed an operator's license. I was not here very long. And I got the occupational license right after. The city of Appleton understood that it was not my fault, and they gave me, I have held a liquor's license in Green Bay, Appleton, and I currently hold one in Grand Chute. So it was a mix-up and misunderstanding. They had to prove that I had just moved up here and transferred from the market store to the traditional store on Appleton, and that it was their mistake, not mine.
And you did just tell us that you have never received a
Because I
conviction.
didn't,
But
it
that
wasn't
is a
con-
conviction, right?
I apologize, ma'am, I wasn't trying to lie. I'm super nervous, and I didn't know that that was an actual conviction. Like, I've been up here shaking like a leaf because I'm nervous up here. I didn't know that was the conviction. The officer just came in, she told me that, hey, you can't sell alcohol, and I put her on the phone with my district manager. After that, they handled everything. So I'm just explaining to you the situation and what came about that. And then I was told that I had to take my tips and then go get my liquor's license. That's it. So I didn't pay a fine. I do know that there was money that corporate had to pay, so I'm assuming that would have been a fine, but I didn't personally have to pay anything. The company handled everything. So I apologize. I'm not trying to lie. I just don't know details about that, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have a question before I make my motion to the city attorney. Is there a possibility of having a temporary or a probationary type license? For instance, if I added in my motion that if she's, how long is the license period for, Debbie? How long is the license period for?
Is a 60-day, which she,
The regular license.
The license, the operator's license.
oh, the regular operators? It's a 2-year. It expires.
No, I meant the bartender's license.
Yeah.
The bartender's license, it expires in June 30th of 2021. So all of our licenses, no matter when they're issued, they all expire on 2021.
Okay, and is there a possibility of issuing the license and then asking for a review in 6 months or something like that?
What happens is if someone is issued an operator's license and then there is another background check that's done.
Yeah.
And so if there is something that occurs between the time that it's issued and the time when you're gonna renew, that can be considered as a reason whether to approve or deny a license.
So
So if there's other convictions, then you would be able to take that into consideration.
Could I make a motion that we issue the license, that it comes back to this body in 6 months and review? No?
No, if it's approved, then she has the license until the next renewal period. But like I
And
said,
that would be till June of 21.
21.
And so she could,
just over a year.
right, but, I mean, she could get caught operating again and she'd still be able to keep her license.
Correct.
So that concerns me. I mean, the term habitual, I do see habitual here, but you're absolutely right. Is it related to liquor sales? And I'm seeing, from 2015, 16, 17, 18, and now just this past January, and I'm just wondering, have you learned your lesson? I think by being up here, I would hope that you did, but I was hoping to make a motion where we would issue your license, but to be able to come back and, 6 months and see if there hasn't been any other issues.
Which I actually kind of like that idea, and I also like the in the state of Wisconsin, there's actually two types of licenses, which is another reason why I fell through the cracks when I got transferred up here. What I would advise, if it was something that the city of Menasha was able to do, is have a difference between an actual bartender's license and a liquor license.
I've said that myself.
Because the license that you're giving me actually does leave it open. So for somebody who may not be honest or responsible, I could go potentially get a job at a bar, serve somebody who's been
Right.
well intoxicated, so on and so forth.
That's my concern.
So I do think there should be two different licenses. I don't think that for somebody who's just running a convenience store should have that much say, but they should still have to have just the amount of training and be held up to the law just as a bartender, because I have had to deny multiple people that come from the Will Inn behind us who have been there way too long and drank more than they should, and I've had to deny selling alcohol to them. But like I said, with us holding that, being able to have the same rights as a bartender, I don't think that's appropriate and is needed for all convenience stores.
Well, I see two other mics on, and I wouldn't want to make a motion without giving them an opportunity to speak, so I'll.
Alderman Langdon?
Thank you, Mayor. So actually, I see, well, first I'm going to ask Chief Stajka, on the second from bottom, Chief, 12/12/2019, she was cited for an unregistered vehicle. How do you find that out?
My tags were expired.
Your what?
My tags were expired.
Oh, so you got
So-
pulled over for that?
So
Okay.
I am technically legally married, but we have been separated for quite some time. And it's not going to be an easy divorce. And because both of our names are on the car note, he did legally keep the car and was not allowing me to have the vehicle, but he was not maintaining the vehicle. So until I had a good conversation with the finance company, the car sat at his property. So when I got it, the tags were expired and had to be updated. Since then, the registration is legal, so the car is legal and has been registered.
Okay. So on the 128/16, you were speeding, and then again, at the top, this one is for everyone, again, you had no insurance.
For the, I'm sorry, I might wear glasses, but they need to be redone. Okay, so we are looking at 1/28/2016, correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. To be honest, I don't remember that. So, I'm, if it says no insurance, then I did not have insurance at the time, sir.
Okay. I'm with Alderman Sevenick on this. I'm not really sure yet, but I've done a couple of ride-alongs with the police, and 11/19 is huge. I do know they have a line that they go by if they should pick you up or not, but 11/19 is substantial, and that was in the city, correct?
No, sir, that was on the interstate. Yes, I will admit, I have had issues with a lead foot. Nowadays, I just go ahead and I use my control because sometimes I don't look down as often as I should. So in city limits, I am actually good and don't have to use the control because I don't want to accidentally hit somebody or not be paying attention. On the highway was where I had those issues, and that's where both of those 11/19s happened. That should be by Brown County.
So Chief Stajka, how does, do you know how they record that? I thought when you get picked up that they have a radar gun and tells the amount of speed. I guess I'm not understanding 11/19.
The statute basically breaks it into different categories. So 11 to 19 over is one of the categories.
Oh, okay.
Looking from the record, it appears that the first one was 19 over, so 89 and a 70. The second one appears to have been a 84 and a 70.
Okay, thank you. You know, you have another one in 2016, operating while suspended, and again, no insurance.
Yes, sir.
So How long have you lived in this state?
Probably a little bit before. So altogether, I've probably lived in this state this time around a little over 5 years, sir.
And again, 5/9/2017, no insurance. And another one, operating while registration suspended. So you don't think that you need to follow by the law?
No, sir. Like I explained to the gentleman there, I'm not saying that I don't have to abide by the law. Like I said, I have owned up that I did not do what was lawful, and I do take responsibility for that.
So when is this last one? 1/7/2020? Do you say that that's still into play?
No,
You're operating again while suspended. That was only, what, half a month ago?
Yes, I understand that. My insurance had been canceled only 2 days. So I was 2 days late. I had to wait until I got my paycheck so I could pay the insurance. Like I said, that is not a good excuse. I'm just explaining to you on why that has happened.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'll go back about maybe 10 minutes ago. Alderman Sevenick was ready to approve your license. Then all of a sudden, Officer Stike hands something to the attorney that we don't have on our sheet, and I think that's not appropriate. We should have the right information, and this was something back in 2015. So I appreciate that he did give you something, but based on the facts that we have in front of us, I think if you've done your due diligence, you have your insurance, and you have a valid license, so I'll let Randy Rapella make the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ashley, Scouts Honor, you do have insurance for your vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's with Dairyland. They are supposed to be sending me the cards through the mail. If I knew how to pull it up and stuff, I would totally do that for you. I just don't know how to. I might be only 32 years old, but I was not raised a part of the newer generation, so I'm really not that great with smartphones.
Okay.
But if I had a way, I would definitely show you. But yes, I have the cheapest liability that is legal within the state of Wisconsin, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ashley, and I would like to make a motion, thank you. Make a motion to approve Ashley for her liquor license, alcohol operator's license. Do I have a second? Thank you.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Grotti. Alderman Sevenick?
I just want to add that, I say this a lot, we kind of act like judges up here, and we're not qualified to do that. We're not lawyers. We don't know the law as well as our city attorney. But because we become that judge, we have the opportunity to take matters, information, and then make a decision. And when I read this, I'm offended by the offenses. But something tells me that they're all related to the fact of personal things that are going on in your life. And a lot of that has to do with your finances. And I think that if you had better cash in hand, we probably wouldn't see any of these. So with that, I'm gonna vote to allow for your license.
Thank you, sir.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. I just want to thank you for being here this evening and commending you on taking the time to be here. I understand that it took a lot for you just to get here tonight.
Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 6-2.
Thank you very much.
We also have Jennifer Zimmerman here this evening. Attorney Captain, did you want to start out?
Hi.
Hi,
Are you
Jennifer's-
Jennifer Elizabeth Zimmerman?
yes,
Okay. And did you receive a copy of that letter?
yep, I got it right
Okay.
here.
And the lieutenant who wrote the letter indicated that there was a conviction for a felony, and that was in the year 2000, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if I can just make a statement that one of the statutory requirements is that no person who should be issued a license related to alcohol beverages if they have been convicted of a felony unless the person has been duly pardoned. That is one of the statutes. There are other statutes that indicate that you cannot discriminate against a person who has been convicted of a felony unless it's substantially related to the license for which they are applying. And you also have to take into consideration the length of time between the conviction, what other offenses, if any, other convictions occurred between that time and the present time. And I see that we're looking at a felony conviction in 2000, and I would recommend that that not be taken into consideration because it's too long ago.
So with that, does anyone have a motion or any questions? Alderman Sevenick.
You'll be using this license for what purpose?
Selling beer at Dollar General. I'm the store manager of the Menasha store.
And you currently have your driver's license
Yes, I do.
and you're insured?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I agree with the city attorney. I was hoping I wouldn't have to make that statement, but, I mean, when a person gets a felony, it seems like they're stuck with it for life, and
And
it's.
that crime I committed when I was 16. Like,
Okay.
it was,
And they gotta
long
live
time
with
ago.
that, and it makes it tough on employment and everything else, and, I think 20 years has been a long time, and therefore I'll move that, Jennifer receive her bartender's license.
thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second by Alderman Langdon. Is there any further? I'll give you the next one, Ann. Is there any? Is there any further discussion? Did you have anything else, Stan?
Sorry.
Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
I know, you guys drilled her. I was like, oh my God. But mine wasn't as bad, so.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is a professional service agreement between the City of Menasha and ALV Engineering, doing business as ALV Inspection for the commercial building and electrical inspection services. Do we have a motion, or would? Director Schrader, did you want to fill us in on what this is?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor. So in front of the common council today is the professional service agreement between the city of Menasha and ALV Engineering, or I should say the proposed service agreement. So this service agreement would be for commercial building and electrical inspections. So this past spring, the city historically had worked with Safe Built Inspections for commercial building, plumbing, electric, as well as backup residential inspections. Due to the lack of concentration within the area, they had to terminate the entire region. So they actually pulled out of the entire region. At that time, again, this spring, staff had reached out to some of the local inspectors to see if, they would be able to take on additional workload. At that time, they were not. So the staff brought forward an RFP to the Common Council this spring, or this summer. We went out for a request for a proposal for that type of service. And again, we did not receive any responses back from that. So again, ALV Engineering, doing business as ALV Inspection Services, was recommended by one of the local inspectors who had kind of stated, this is a growing need within the region and the entire state. So what we have before us is a service contract. It's a 12-month contract. It does not auto-renew, which would give us an opportunity to review that relationship within a year. And again, this is just for commercial building and electric. So it typically would take a larger service firm that had multiple employees to cover for building, electric, and plumbing. So this is just the commercial building and electric services. The permit, the fee for that service is based upon the permits that are brought in. So again, the permit fee is, or the consulting fee would be 85% of those permit fees. And additional services such as requested code enforcement, annual liquor license would be $85 per hour, minimum 1 hour, which includes travel time. For comparison, this service contract is very similar to the previous Safe Built contract. However, the percentage that was with the Safe Built was at 90%. So again, this is reducing that back down to 85%. And then the hourly rate for Safe Built was $83 an hour within the 8 to 5 period, and then I believe it was $95 outside of that. So staff is recommending the Common Council approve this service agreement, and then we will continue to look to bring forward a separate commercial building inspector to provide that service as well.
Go ahead.
A couple of things that I wanted to point out about the agreement. One of them has to do with, although it is a 12-month, there is language in here where either party upon 60 days written notice with or without cause may provide notice to the other party to terminate the agreement. So that is in there. In addition, we generally want stronger, tighter language with regard to liability. However, it is extremely difficult to find inspectors at this time. And so language that is included in this agreement indicates that the person who is acting as the city's agent. I did check with our insurance company, and, of course, they don't particularly care for that type of language. But it is, more and more communities are just we have to do that in order to provide the service. And so there is language in regard to this person acting as our agent. We did still include language about insurance requirements so that even when someone is acting as our agent, certainly if they're driving, we don't want to be responsible for any motor vehicle accidents, et cetera. But when somebody does go into a building and do the inspection, if there is some type of, we, knock on wood, we, haven't had any issues and don't expect any, but I just need to make you aware of that. that, somebody perhaps could be complaining that the person was acting as an agent for the city of Menasha. There was one other thing I was going to mention, and now it escaped me. I'll try to think of it. Quick.
Alderman Rappel.
Thank you, Mayor. Listening to Sam and going through this explanation, what does Todd Drew do? Because he was checking electrical and things when I went on a ride along with Todd and Mayor Joe, or not Mayor Joe, Mayor Joe, Inspector Joe. Right, but he was also checking electrical at the Vietzky Funeral Home. And so, what's the difference? What? Maybe, yes. Sam, what's the difference between him and this ALV?
So Todd Drew is the health sanitarian, so he would oversee health nuisances, things of that nature. So again, I cannot speak directly to that or that specific case, but maybe it was some sort of emergency health-related issue where there was a major electric issue that he had to step in and say, this has to get cut off or something. I do not know the specifics of that. However, he does not hold a commercial electrical inspection license. He is a health sanitarian overseeing health enforcement, weights and measures, and that sorts.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
So I guess just to reiterate why this is important, right now we're relying on a state to do all of our commercial building inspections. And while we can do that, it's caused considerable numbers of delays in projects. And we all know that when people are trying to open a business, time is money. So this is very important to be business friendly and to attract businesses to have timely inspections. And because the state is overwhelmed with inspections as well right now, sometimes it's taking a lot longer than it should. So this will fix that, and with some of the larger projects that we have coming up, it's going to be very important to have a commercial inspector on site.
If I may just jump in there very quickly, so just as previously noted, so the state always does have jurisdiction, so we are not a delegated community, but this service, we are collecting the permits for this service to be providing this service. So again, if we don't provide this service, we should drop our permit fees anyway. So it should be something that's net neutral.
Not sure who is next. Are you next, Stan?
Did you find out? Go ahead. The city attorney can go.
Go ahead.
The other matter that I wanted to mention is that if there are legal services that are required in the event the person is not able to gain access for inspection purposes, would need an inspection warrant, the contract does provide that the city would provide those services. That is different than other contracts that we've had. You know, it makes sense. I don't expect that would be an issue because for the most part, this has to do with new construction, and certainly they want to get their permits, so if they don't allow inspections, you know, they're not going to get a permit, so that would be a problem really for the building owner.
Okay, Mayor. I have a quick question before I make a motion for Sam. Is this for, as far as you said it's a one-year agreement, is that agreement start next week, or is it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year?
It would likely start once executed. So again, if approved tonight, then once officially executed on the documents as dated, that would be 1 year from that time frame.
So then it would go up until this time next year?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. At this time then, Mayor, I'll move that we here in the Common Council approve the professional service agreement between the City of Menasha and ALV Engineering LLC, doing business as ALV Inspection Services for commercial buildings and electrical inspection services.
Is there a second?
There you go.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Schrader, near the bottom of your memo, it indicates that additional services would be code enforcement and annual liquor license inspections, if needed. Is that consistent with past practice?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that. And also, this is for commercial building and electrical inspections, so we're providing 2 of the 3 needed inspection services. What will we be doing for plumbing?
So we do have a lead on another commercial plumbing that we are going to be following up with to see if they would be able to provide that service at a similar contract and a similar rate. If that lead does fall through, then we will likely come back, request for proposal to the common council to go out just solely for that service. Again, it is possible that breaking these services out into individuals may allow us to get more of a response than we did this summer.
In the meantime, will customers still need to depend on state inspection for that specific service?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Repella.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, what is the difference between the ALV expense and the state's expense? I mean, how much do we normally pay for the state compared to the ALV?
So the city of Menasha does not pay the state. So the contractors pay review fees and things of that nature. I believe they do pay additional inspection fees to the state as they're required to do. Again, we set our permit rates based upon the services we provide. So these permits that are set, these fees that are set are based upon us providing this service. So again, to be able to get this service back online will do a benefit to our contractors locally to continue to move forward with their projects.
Okay, and so we're kind of paying $85 per hour, right, our minimum?
So
The new contract would read $85 an hour?
so it's 85% of the permit fee. So again, I'm doing an addition on a commercial building, that permit fees, $1,000. We would give $850 to this inspector to go out and conduct all of the inspections, issue the permit, do all of the inspections through final inspection, and we would keep 15% or $150 for administration of that permit.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay, item 4 is a memorandum of understanding between the city of Menasha and EM Strategic Development. Do you want to comment on this first?
Sure, I can comment on this, so thank you, Mayor. So in front of us is a memorandum of understanding request between the city of Menasha and EM Strategic Development to analyze the feasibility of a hotel development, specifically on the Bonta property and the general area as to the specific draws of that. It was noted earlier that we did do a hotel feasibility study this past spring, or this past summer, fall, that did show, again, a hotel was feasible within this market. That hotel study is a tool that staff was able to use to go out and not only work with a hotel flag or brand to actually get a brand interested in the Menasha market, but also to work and to find a hotel-specific developer that would be interested in conducting that project. So again, what is in front of us is, yes, additional hotel development analysis and study that goes more into depth. But most hotel developers, even if you have your own feasibility analysis, will not move forward with the project unless it's specifically done by a firm that they trust. So again, we did go out for RFP. We only received 2 proposals back for that. I had asked that hotel developer, so why is it that the firm that you want to work with did not submit a proposal on this? And they specifically said they just don't. These types of firms only work specifically with hotel developers and brands and don't necessarily go out and do the proposals. So again, what we're doing is looking at conducting that feasibility analysis. And more importantly, this developer sees this as basically building a relationship and a trust with the city of Menasha. So saying, okay, is the city willing to, one, support a hotel development, back this type of development, and willing to kind of see that out. So that's what's in front of us today. Staff does recommend the common council execute this MOU, if you will, with strategic development. Because we are desirous of a hotel development and additional developments to enhance that area. This is, again, just based upon the address, that is the kind of the Gilbert Bonta area. We have notified the ownership of the Gilbert site, as well as this MOU is being kind of presented preliminary to the RDA tomorrow, to just kind of give a rundown of one, what happened tonight, and then this same scope of services that I had shared with you. A hotel development is a lot of money to go into it. End of the day, it could be a $15 million to $25 million project, depending on the feasibility analysis and how many rooms and what adjacent uses could come forward. So again, staff is recommending the common council approve this. Community development does have the funds internally within my current budget that we can support half this feasibility study, and in hopes that it turns out to be that $25 million development with additional developments that could be $50 to $60 million. So thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion, but I'm going to change up the motion, so you may want to read along with me, because I do not like the wording that's there as far as the 430 and the 460 Anup Street. That's too specific for me. I think that part should say the Bonta/Gilbert location. And then also, too, I'd like to end it with the funds to come from the community development budget. So at this time, I would like to make a motion that this council execute the memorandum of understanding with EM Strategy Development to analyze the feasibility of the hotel development for the location of the Bonta-Gilbert area, finding the city is desirous to develop the properties with a hotel development and additional development to enhance the immediate area, and funding to come from the community development's budget.
It's a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grady.
Is that okay?
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as the aldermanic representative on the redevelopment authority and a member of the city council, this is literally the first I hear of this, of anything going on these sites. So, Director Schrader, could you tell us more about how we got here today?
So the hotel the feasibility analysis that was presented to the common council showed that it did look at several different sites. One of those sites specifically that they thought would be an appropriate site was up in the former Shopko area. Once we kind of, again, part of my my duties as the community development director is to reach out for development. And in discussion with the hotel brand and this developer, we had looked at that site, and then they had brought back that they would be more interested, potentially looking at the Bonta Gilbert site as time progressed with everything else that the city has done to capitalize on that area and our downtown and how we are growing. And so again, it's something that we feel is, or I feel is part of my job duties to bring forward these things for proposed development.
And how did we get to this specific developer then?
So I guess if you're asking if we went out for proposals or anything of that nature, we did not. So again, staff went and discussed with some hotel brands, and this is a developer that immediately was very interested in Menasha. So again, part of my job duties as a community development director is to bring forward development.
And why did they express interest in Menasha? What is their interest?
So again, it's kind of looking at the overall market of, okay, is there a feasibility for a hotel? Is there a market for that hotel with, not only abilities for businesses or events or banquets to cause room nights, but also is there a market for another hotel, the specific brand of hotel, the specific type of hotel, the market of hotel, the amount a room night should be expended.
Yeah, but that's about the hotel itself and this memorandum of understanding. There must have been something that said to them, oh, we're really interested in Menasha, this is why we want to check this out. What makes them want to check it out and do this feasibility study?
I would say because they feel that there is a market for a hotel and they want to investigate that further.
Would it be fair to say, Sam, that you reached out to several hotel chains, several developers? This one came up to Menasha, talked to us, reviewed the study that we had, and found enough information to be interested in Menasha and the room nights and things that you were talking about. And this is the next step to verify if those things are correct for the types of hotels that this person would be looking at developing. So this is kind of, he looked at the study we had, and now this is the phase 2 to make sure that he feels comfortable with developing in Menasha and that it would be a financially viable project.
Yes.
And what do we know about other projects they've worked on in the past?
So they had just did a large project in Elkhorn, again with a very similar approach to working with the city down there to purchase a piece of property. I believe that the city actually purchased the property, and again, every development agreement is different. So what this is stating, though, this memorandum of understanding is to say that yes, the city is of support of getting a hotel development. And they would like to see if there's a feasibility to do such.
Any other projects that they've done that we can look at?
There are several. Again, I would point them to their websites. I believe Elkhorn.
Because if I go to their website, I don't see much as far as projects they've completed in the past.
They have had several. Again, there's the couple names are escaping me of now, but they have had past projects that have worked, and again, they are coming recommended from a hotel brand as well. I mean, so a hotel brand would not recommend them as a developer if that brand did not feel they could pull out a project to support their brand. And again, it's a little tricky with hotels, is that there's hotel brands, so flags, names, and then there's hotel development. So you have to be able to get both, and you have to be able to line up both. So even if a flag is interested or a brand is interested, you have to match that with a hotel developer that is willing to expend the money to look at the analysis further, to spend resources, and then to physically be able to finance it and do the project.
Well, then they must have the $5,000 they're asking for to do the feasibility study. I think that sort of thing is the cost of business on their end. And so I have concerns about the city engaging in first funding half of a feasibility study. That sets precedent for future developers coming to the city looking for a handout before things even get started. There's also the work that's been done leading up or leading into talking about with the community about the Bonta site. On July 25th, 2018, there was a community open house hosted by a developer that the Redevelopment Authority had been working with. And the overwhelming response from the community is that residential is the overwhelmingly viewed as the best use for the Bonta site. We also have minutes from the July 10th, 2018 redevelopment meeting, which state that under discussion action items about the specific property, that Commissioner Vanderheiden felt that the site should be primarily residential use with a mix of commercial. The other commission members agreed with him and felt that this vision was consistent with our downtown vision plan, which I also brought, because that had a lot of community involvement and a lot of work put behind it. The Bonta site is future land use of medium-density residential. The Gilbert site has a future land use of high-density and mixed use. Those are the things that were agreed upon by our community over the course of the last couple of years. So this is in direct competition with what we have before us tonight. There's also an item, sentence in item number 2 of this memorandum of understanding, that if the feasibility study yields information that both parties believe benefits them, the parties shall have 180 days from the agreed upon and accepted date of this MOU to finalize a development agreement. That means that if we approve this, and it yields beneficial information to both parties, we've now tied ourselves to a development agreement. The community has not had a chance to respond to this, other than 4 days since it's been posted. And it doesn't fit the vision that the community has established for the site.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's done. My question then, Director Schroeder, Sam, so 10,000 was thrown out, but technically the city, it's only 5,000? It's just half of that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is up to 10,000, so.
Right, max or whatever, but half is only Menasha's 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, on this MOU agreement, paragraph 3, the last sentence. Can you explain that?
Explain the last sentence in paragraph 3?
Yes, sir.
Nothing herein shall construed as limiting the developer from pursuing purchase of the lands to be included in the TIF with city approval. So that's basically stating while we work through this, if they wanted to acquire the properties, again, the city of Menasha does not own any of these properties, nor does the developer. The redevelopment authority has an ownership, as well as PJC Ownership Group LLC.
Alderman Nichols mentioned the 180 days. Is that true that after 180 days, if this goes through, we have a development agreement?
What that's stating is that we're looking at, we aren't spending the money on a feasibility study and continue to look at this if we're not interested in actually doing a development and a hotel development in this general area and vicinity. So again, the goal is to, yes, to move along and to get a development agreement. But at the same time, there are a ton of moving parts. Like I had stated, the city of Menasha does not own the properties. So that again is a very open door. You know, the redevelopment authority would still have opportunity to discuss at that time. You know, we've talked a lot about conceptually the site. We've talked a lot about vision. River Heath and downtown Appleton Flats have come up multiple times. And again, so this is a development that I feel does meet the discussions that have been had.
Well, it always seems like we kind of put the cart before the horse. We had a development a couple weeks ago that probably should have went through the planning commission before it came to the council, the Brent site. So sometimes I think we're sidestepping. Okay. You said staff talked with a couple hotel brands, and there was no other interest when you were out talking other hotels.
There, not necessarily at this exact time, and I will say that the hotel market is a very, very shrinking market in the Fox Valley. If the city of Menasha wants to have a hotel within our city limits, now is the time to do that, and if we don't do it now, we will miss our opportunity, and there will likely be another hotel that gets developed, and that market will close.
Okay, so there was no other interest doing anything at this time from other developers or other hotel chains?
Not at this stage.
Okay. Now, we did have the Fish Fry properties with the Bonta building. And, you know, I go to your planning commission meetings and you guys were looking at fences and, you know, you brought stuff up here where you went down to the bushes in people's yards. I mean, couldn't you have brought something tonight that showed us what the footprint of this was? Or put it on the paper? I don't know what 430 or 460 Annam Street is. You know, what encompasses what part of the properties.
That's not in the motion, I changed that.
Well,
I changed it to the Bonta Gilbert area.
I understand that, but I mean, don't you think we could at least saw the footprint of what this is for the properties that we know what we're talking about? No?
I apologize if next time you would like to see that
Well,
information.
I just think
was
when you
not
bring a
included.
development like this, we like to see the footprint of it, you know? Correct me if I'm wrong. So, would this take part of the building or the building that the fish fry was interested in?
This is looking at the feasibility of the market in the area. So are there enough businesses, banquet facilities to draw enough room nights, and to draw a large enough hotel that it feasibly would be viable financially to construct a hotel, and maintain the integrity of that development, for its life.
So does that include that property that Fish Fry was looking at? That four-story building on the Bonta site?
That is on the Bonta site, so the Bonta Gilbert area, yes.
Okay. So that project would be then pushed aside for this?
The Bonta Gilbert site is roughly 13 acres. A hotel development may take up 1.5, 2 acres. Again, that's why we are looking at additional developments that would support hotel development, as well as the general needs of the entire neighborhood and the downtown vision plan, and the other public interest in this area. So again, this isn't a hotel that would absorb that whole site. Again, there are lots of additional developments that would happen around that.
Next time, I think the public and us would appreciate a map. Thank you.
Director Schrader, you're talking about the downtown vision plan, and I'm probably gonna get yelled at, but I pulled it up. It states high-density mixed use in that area, which I would assume would be commercial and/or residential property, that a hotel would likely fit within that category. And it also shows a banquet restaurant space as well. Is that also part of a hotel-type development?
Yes, so again,
So-
that's looking for additional developments to support that, and they will look at
So
our
this ties-
analysis and studies that we have done.
This type of use that this developer's looking at would fit right in the downtown vision plan as it was presented. Okay. Alderman Sevenick.
I just think that people are reading too much into this. What this is a study to see if there's a possibility of building a hotel within a specific location, being 13 acres. Would it be here? Would it be there? Those are things that are decisions that are made later on, so that we wouldn't necessarily need a map at this time. We all know the 13 acres. It encompasses the whole dam, the Menasha Dam area, the Bonta building, the Gilbert site. So, and in business, you need to create partnerships. You have to understand that this is how business works. This is kind of the problem Menasha's had with some of its leadership. When they don't work together, and then they just disappear because they don't want to deal with it. Wow, we have a huge opportunity here of a possibility of between a $20 and a $40 million project coming in, and we're concerned about money that we have in our budget already of $5,000 being spent. This would probably be the best $5,000 ever spent in our city's budget in my lifetime. Have you been to downtown Appleton lately? Or like Sam indicated, the Heath project down there? They just built another $40 million building, and there's a hotel down there too. Unbelievable. We're not in direct competition with the RDA. RDA is our partners. We want to work with them. The city needs to work with the RDA, the developer. And I don't understand this right now, this going on with this stuff. This is probably, should have been one of the simplest motions we've ever made up here. It's just a memorandum of understanding that we may be interested in the possibility of having a hotel in our city. And that is something this community has needed for the longest time. I hate when people say, I've heard this 25 years now, there's no market for a hotel. Are you kidding me? I saw 12 hotels go up since that time. There's a market out there, and the community is growing. I am just floored by this kind of stuff. I apologize for being a little heated here, but this has been a blessing when I looked at it. And I understand you want to cross the T's and dot I's, but we're not even close to that point right now. So I would encourage my colleagues to vote for this and vote for this strongly. We need to, listen, we have been locked in. We have boundaries all around us. The only way this community is going to grow is to grow up and increase our tax base to help our taxpayers if we want to continue to provide the type of services that we do. And this is one way of doing it. Please vote for this.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Schrader, you mentioned additional supports to support hotel development. So tell me more about additional supports. What does that mean?
Are you referring to additional development support?
Yep, those were your words.
So again, that is looking at, okay, what other developments would support that, that would be feasible next to a hotel? Is that a restaurant? What type of restaurant? Is it a banquet facility? Is it senior living facilities? Is it a condo? Is it an office building? That's what that additional support looks at is, one, what would a hotel be feasible, and then what potentially would be those the supporting services to go along with that.
Thank you. Taxpayers already supported a $20,000 investment in a hotel study, and we know what it says. A developer, anybody who comes in, whether it's, the Quick Trip gas station or the Casey's General, they all do a market study on their own dime to make sure that their business would be feasible at whatever location they're looking into. And I think we should expect the same in this situation. Why would we leave additional support developments in the hands of a developer? Why don't we figure out exactly what it is we want and then make it happen? Ask the community what they see for their city in 10 or 20 years. Let them have some input. They've already given their input on this site, and we're throwing it out. You're talking about a hotel in a residential neighborhood with additional commercial facilities when we already have empty storefronts downtown that need to be filled. What are we doing about that? And by the way, when you talk about collaboration, the city doesn't own either of these sites. The Gilbert site is privately owned. The Bonta site is owned by the RDA, the Redevelopment Authority. Why don't we consult with the Redevelopment Authority? They've been working on the site for the last 2 or 3 years. That would be collaboration.
2 or 3 years, huh? I'm waiting 20 years.
So what's the rush here? And really what I don't like about this memorandum of understanding is that it ties us to a development agreement. So we've just taken everything off the table and it binds us to a development agreement. When we say, is the city willing, when I hear, is the city willing to see it out, that's what this agreement means. Well, what are we seeing out? What are we seeing out? What are we committing ourselves to? Right now, it seems like $5,000. What's next? In order to allow the community sufficient time to respond and for the redevelopment authority to weigh in on the property they own, I move to postpone this for 2 weeks till the next meeting.
Is there a second? The motion dies due to lack of a second.
Move to send it back to admin committee for further review.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second for discussion.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to forward to the admin committee. So, does anyone wish to discuss moving it to the admin committee? I do. Alderman Sevenick.
I think this is just no different than a postponement. No need for it. I'm sticking to the amendment discussion here, and I would ask that we vote against it.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? We're gonna do a roll call on that? I think we probably should.
Mayor, may I make a point of clarification?
Sure.
It's been noted several times that the hotel feasibility analysis that the city had contracted was 20,000. That was 16,000, not 20,000.
Are we, oops. So we have a motion on the floor to forward this to the administration committee. If we're looking for it yet here. There it is. Okay, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion appeals on roll call 2-6.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion. Alderman Taylor.
Sam, we had a person from the public speak tonight with a pretty good financial background. Was there anything in her findings that was of any concern to you?
There was nothing that jumped out that was a concern, no.
Okay, and at some point, do we do a deep dive into somebody's financial background to see if they can put together a project like this or leverage a property like this project?
Again, what we're looking at doing is to see if there even is a project worth bringing. If there is a project worth bringing, at that time we will look closer, to how to finance a project, what the project details are, what the boundaries are, specifically where it goes. So again, at that time, we will look into that.
So are we locked into an agreement at this time?
No, you haven't made any motion.
That bites.
This is a memorandum of understanding. And again, if this developer is coming and basically wanting the support of the common council to understand, yes, this council supports this type of development, and the council is going to be a partner and willing to work to bring this forward. So again, where they are, why the agreement is written the way it is that they are not going to put part of their money into it for the city to turn around to another hotel developer and give them the study, or to say, you know, okay, thank you for your due diligence, we're gonna turn around and make this a bidding war. This is just looking for the council's support within the project. And admittedly, I, along with Alderman Sevenick, you know, the hotel developer discussed briefly about joining the meeting tonight, and I said, you know, I don't think it would fit a trip all the way up from Chicago. It's a long drive to potentially have to stay a night and things of that nature. So again, that is on me, but I had noted to him that I will be sharing this video with him following tonight's meeting.
Just an observation earlier tonight, we said we had to follow the neighborhood study. Okay, we got it, this is what the neighborhood said. Here we had a big study too. So now we don't follow it, there we follow it, so studies are studies.
Again, the study shows high-density, mixed-use development on that site, and a banquet hall or restaurant. And I would think that a hotel would fit within that category on that site. Alderman Repella?
Thank you, Mayor. Boy, interesting conversations tonight. Sam, I don't know, it's gonna be $10,000, $5,000 coming out of, the community development pocket. So we've got some extra money in there right now. It was brought up about the lack of a reputable development company, and I was kinda, enamored with some of the numbers that one of the speakers brought up. And I can see it's kind of a shady place, but at least it seemed to be. But it's going to cost us $5,000. I'd like to see an apartments, condos, and a restaurant there. Not necessarily a hotel, but I think apartments, condos, and a restaurant would look great over there. But I don't know the number of people that go to the Valley Inn or Ramada Inn, whatever, in downtown Neenah. But it doesn't have to be that big, no. So I will support this, that we pay the $5,000. And you also put in there, if no agreement is finalized, the feasibility study becomes the property of the city of Menasha. So we can still negotiate, even if it says, we still have time and opportunities to back out of this at some point anyway, right, Sam?
As you've seen
Just a
in past development agreements, there's a lot that goes into those. If terms aren't agreed upon
Right.
through that process, it does allow us to part our separate ways. And the reason that is put in there is to make sure that the city at that point, if the feasibility study says, yes, there is a market, we have that study to then go to the next developer
Right.
who potentially follows our terms a little bit closer, or our hopes and dreams. So
Right.
again, that's kind of why that's designed and written the way it is. Not to necessarily say we are completely locked into a development agreement and you know, we're giving them the property or anything of that nature.
Right.
It's just stating that if there is a positive feasibility analysis, we agree that yes, we would like this development. It is a worthwhile development, and we would work towards that.
Okay, so they could find it a positive or a negative decision coming out. It's only costing us $5,000 for this. We did spend $16,000 on a previous study. And so now we're just, I guess, cementing the decision if it's going to be a hotel type of situation, or what the first study said was more apartments, condos, restaurant, that type of thing. So again, I will support this for the $5,000, and especially since it's coming out of the community development fund that we have. Thank you. Good job.
Alderman Taylor.
Sam, the fish fry properties wanted 90 days. This company wants 180. That puts us into December. Is there any way we can shorten that window up?
Again, the memorandum of understanding is written. If you wanted to make an amendment to shorten that up, you can certainly do that. I'm not saying, I don't know if that developer would support shortening that up. But I will say that, the feasibility analysis, is likely, would likely take at least a month. So again, there's 30 days, and then it's there's a lot of due diligence that goes into looking at bringing forward a development agreement, potentially, land acquisition, talking to the RDA, talking to the private owners of Gilbert. So there's a lot of discussions that go into and draft a development agreement. Those aren't pulled together overnight.
And that was their number, their hard number they came up with to you?
Yes, that is their recommendation, yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oops, sorry.
Alderman Taylor mentioned fish fry properties. They didn't ask for 1 cent to do their feasibility study on the property. Neither have other developers who have come to the redevelopment authority. It's just not how we do business. We don't have any information on this developer, no references, no record of work, nothing. And I'll just read number 2 so that the public can hear it. If the feasibility study yields information the developer believes warrants the project's development from a business or profitability standpoint, and the city agrees the project is mutually beneficial, the parties will enter into negotiations on the terms and conditions of a development agreement. The parties shall have 180 days from the agreed upon and accepted date of this MOU to finalize that development agreement. If it came back as feasible, would the Common Council need to grant permission to enter that development agreement, or would the ball just keep rolling based on what's here?
I can answer that.
Thank you.
Attorney Cap.
The city has to agree that the project is mutually beneficial. So if the city does not agree, then that's it.
Well, I think my question is the city staff or is it the Common Council?
The Common Council.
It's the law.
It's the Common Council. That's who this is entered into between the city of Menasha. It's just referred to as the city. But both parties, the developer and the city, both have to agree that there is something there to move forward with. Otherwise, there isn't going to be a development agreement.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and I see no further discussion. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call, 7-1.
Director Schrader, you're up again.
Sounds good. So before the Common Council today is just a continued discussion. So I believe earlier the past month or so, we brought forward just a communication on the land purchase and development agreement between the RDA and Cypress Homes. Again, as we continue to progress, staff just wanted to make sure the Common Council was aware of what we are looking at doing. So again, if you look at the map that is provided, the RDA came into an agreement with Cypress Homes to basically sell 8 residential Lake Park Villa lots. However, there was a contingency that a replat of lots 18 through 20 and 22 through 25 be approved prior to closing on those 7 lots. So again, they've already closed on lot 21. There's a house under construction. And from what I'm told, they would like to, to continue to move forward to construct the remainder of those lots following an official approval. The reason this is being brought forward is that the city of Menasha owns lot 15 and lot 16 as part of the drainage areas and outlots. But again, the yellow areas that are highlighted within your maps show that it's basically minimal absorption of city-owned properties. That is just remnant green space that I think Thad sitting over here, will say that they would be glad not to cut anymore. And we would have a larger tax base and be able to have slightly larger homes to move forward with. So again, this will appear in front of Plan Commission, I believe, in April. And historically, with a replat, we have done those simultaneously as a preliminary plat and conceptual plat, or excuse me, a preliminary and final plat, and then as well as the disposition of public property. So that would appear at a future date for official business. But again, we wanted to make sure we are continuing the council in that conversation as it deals with public owned property, to make sure there are no objections at this time as the official concept came out.
Alderman Rappel. Oops, sorry, I gotta hit the button here.
Oh, all right, thank you. Sam, I just want to thank you for providing us maps. Thank you. They look very, very nice. Thank you again.
So, so the motion could be to refer this to the Plan Commission, Director Schrader? That be appropriate?
We could have a motion, otherwise discussion if there are objections. Otherwise, there would not necessarily need to be a motion on a conceptual plan. This is kind of just making sure we're all on the same page, and there wouldn't need to be a tweaks on the front end, because I believe they would like to close on the rest of those lots, get them back on the tax roll and start developing the rest of those lots. So.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll make a motion to accept the land purchase and development agreement between the RDA and Cypress Homes.
And refer the replat to the City Plan Commission?
Yes, that would be great.
How's that sound, Director
That would be
Schrader?
awesome, Don. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. It's a motion and a second by Alderman Tom Grady. Any discussion? You have to type all that, otherwise we can just do a voice vote.
Otherwise, because I didn't get the whole thing, you said land purchase.
Oh, it's
in
this
the
right here.
title. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to you if you want to do a roll call, otherwise.
If there's no objections, we'll do a voice vote on this. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing there's no opposed, I think that's fine. We'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. Item 1, it's ordinance 2. Is there a motion this evening? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Mayor. Make the motion for 0-2-20, an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 1, Article C of the Code of Ordinances for the parking regulations introduced by Mayor Merkes, recommended by the Board of Public Works.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second by Alderman Schmidt. Is there any discussion? Alderman Sevenek.
Thank you, Mayor. This is still kind of a issue that, I'm not sure is the most appropriate way of handling it, so I would ask that, this come back to the Board of Public Works at some point to give us an update on how it's working.
After putting up the signs is what you're saying then?
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen, I really appreciate our options as follows here. You really laid it out nice. We could spend a lot of money or a little bit of money or leave the situation alone. So certainly.
Yeah, what you see included in there is the memo that should have went with it or at the Board of Public Works. I apologize that we didn't have it, but there it is. We included it. And then if you folks noticed, we did send out letters to the property owners along this block of TACO, and I can't say that I heard from anyone. I don't know if any of you individuals had, but, so.
But it's well appreciated, and the map too in there.
Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
So items 2, 3, and 4 all are resolutions to the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands. They are relating to our 2019 CIP projects. Since Director Sassman isn't here, typically what we do is if we can, we fund our CIP projects through our working capital, and then we borrow once those projects are complete. And the reason we do that is so we don't borrow more than what our projects actually cost. We had planned on our CIP projects to be about $1.5 million last year, if you look at Resolution 3, number 2, and they came in at about $1 million, so we would have borrowed an additional $500,000 if we would have borrowed ahead of time. The others came in closer to what we had thought. Those are the TIF projects in the Resolution 4 and Resolution 5. So if anyone has questions, we may be able to help. Otherwise, we would accept some motions. Alderman Sevenick.
I still think we should take one at a time.
Oh, we
so
can take them one at a time. That's
I'll
no
move
problem.
for R 320.
Is there a second? I don't know who you got. Sure. Alderman Schmidt is the second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Nichols.
Just curious why there was such a difference in the estimated versus actual?
Part of it was the parking lot for the Jefferson Park project, and there was something else as well. There were a couple projects, though, that came in under budget. So it was mainly the Jefferson Park parking lot
Okay.
project, though, that was the bulk of that.
I thought so, thank you.
Sure. Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move for R 420.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I think it was Ted. And the reason this is a 7-year loan versus a 10-year loan is that's the remainder of the life on TIF 9, and we didn't want it to go past the lifespan of the TIF district. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. Just so everyone's aware, this is in the amount of $1,390,000.
Yes. Did you want to read the?
She already stated it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Seeing no further discussion, if we could have a roll call?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Alderman Sevenick.
And just so you know, you do not have to, when it comes to ordinances or resolutions, read it, but for the public to understand, I will. So at this time, I'll move for R 520, a resolution approving the application to Board of Commissioners of Public Lands to borrow $490,000 from the State Trust Fund and authorizing the borrowing and the issuance of certificates of indebtedness and levying a tax in connection therewith.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grady. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item N is public comments on any matter that was listed on the agenda. Is there? Mrs. Taylor? Oh.
In reference to the bartender's licenses that were up for denial tonight, I did want to touch base with the group. The police department has traditionally felt like we're hopefully sharing your vision as to what you are looking for. The second one that came up for denial, and let me start off by, or back up by saying, I completely respect the decisions that you folks made tonight. Second one, those are gonna have to come to you because statute says that someone has a felony, you have to approve it. The first one I'm a little more, or the first one I am a little bit concerned about for the fact that the police department feels that we are trying to use your guidelines. In the case of Ms. Thomas, she had multiple phone calls that were abusive, profane, extremely unprofessional. And when we were trying to explain to her what was going on, we tried to explain to her the council's guidelines. The council's guidelines are 3 convictions within a 5-year period. We had 12. Now, those weren't substantially related to the sale of alcohol. They were traffic-related ones. So what I'm asking the council, in the same way that Alderman Sevenick and I, 7 years ago, sat down and redid the guidelines, if we need to do that again, let's please do that. I have to go back and tell my staff tomorrow that this bartender license, which we were trying to follow your rules, was approved. That's hard for me to do. They took a lot of abuse over this one. So if there's something that we can fine tune, again, I'm not frustrated, upset, or angry. I just want to make sure that we're sharing the same vision and that we're on the same page. So if we can do that in the future, that would be great. Thank you.
Sandra DeBill Taylor, 545 Broad Street. First, I don't think I can, but can I comment on the administration agenda or not?
We didn't discuss that yet.
Yeah, I know, but there's no place for public comment on the agenda. Okay, well, because I can't talk about that, I am just going to mention,
She could have spoke about that at the beginning, and she may have, I don't know.
I'll suspend the rules because I have an administration meeting coming up and I may be concerned about what Ms. Taylor has to say.
So it would need a 2/3 vote to suspend. Oh, it's not on the agenda, so we can't speak it.
no, that's what I'm,
No, but the agenda says this is what we're going to talk about, so we'd be violating state statutes on open meetings, allowing her to speak on something that's not on the agenda. The agenda says public comments on any matter listed on the agenda.
She wants to speak on an agenda item that's coming up before us.
I would rule that this says on the common council agenda. So she could have spoken about it at the beginning if she wished to.
I know, I run out of my 5 minutes.
You actually had close to 10 or 12 the first time around. Yeah.
So I should make a comment, how come Public Works and Administration, they don't have places for public comment? So, just.
You can speak at the beginning of the common council meeting, though, about those items if you wish.
Okay. So anyhow, now, I will talk about something that was on the agenda. the discussion, regarding the memo of understanding. I appreciate Alderman Nichols' questions, because I agree with her on almost everything she said regarding why wasn't this either on the RDA agenda or the administration agenda, and it just poof, magically appeared. I mean, especially if she was a member of the RDA and knew nothing about it. To me, I think there should have been a little more leeway. My other, and she brought up some very good questions regarding, you know, it's kind of talked about a mixed use, and I mean, because really, so many projects we do that are mixed use, and that can be just about anything. You assume it's going to be, you know, commercial, and it turns out residential or whatever. But the only part I didn't agree with her was that I do agree we could use a hotel. And we're the only one in the Fox Valley that doesn't have one. And so I'm in favor of looking into a possible development of this site, and I think it would be a catalyst for more development, and especially something, a draw to the city. Whether it's weddings or, you know, conferences, or with Theda Clark so short away, we should really be trying to grab a lot of the business that's going on there, comparing it to Fox Crossing, and they're just booming at the seams with medical facilities. But the portion I was really concerned with, and Alderman Nichols brought up, was that it did sound to me, reading it, that it bound us to an agreement. And to me, it was more like a middleman. It wasn't like the developer. It was more like somebody that was coming in here, and they were gonna scope it out and wanted us to pay half of it, irregardless of what the cost was. It could have been $50,000, but they wanted us to pay half, and that was really their due diligence. If they were gonna then turn around and make contacts with their supposed contact hotel brands and sell it to them. So to me, it seems more like they're gonna make the money off of this. And that's why I'm really questioning it. Especially an LLC that doesn't have a whole lot of history behind it. So I'm not opposed to the project. I'm not opposed to things going through. And then I also kind of question, because part of it isn't owned by the city, why they didn't approach our little, you know, the attorney guys, Chudikoff and the JBC group. They have, why didn't they talk to them and have them throw in money at a feasibility study? So I just had lots of questions, and I'm afraid that we might have tied ourselves into something, at least for 180 days, that, you know, now if somebody else comes along, I still think if we stuck to local, you know, I mean, I love the idea of getting ideas from other areas, but if we have local developers, even like the Heath project, and people that, you know, that we know do business and build things, and especially with the stock market as it is, people are gonna throw their money into capital projects, at least for a time being, those with the money, because they're not gonna wanna risk it. So, thank you very much.
So seeing no one else, I would accept a motion to recess to the Administration and Public Works Committee, and we'll come back. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. We are at recess. Thank you.